Hello everyone. There comes a moment, quiet, almost imperceptible, when you realize that the body you've carried for decades no longer obeys you in quite the same way. You climb the stairs and your breath lingers just a little too long in your chest. You look in the mirror and the man staring back has the same eyes, but the skin around them tells a story of years that have passed faster than you imagined. But here's the truth: aging is not the enemy. It's the most honest mirror we will ever face. It asks us to decide, will we shrink into the shadows of fatigue and self-neglect, or will we stand taller, more grounded, more alive than ever before? For men over 60, vitality isn't just about living longer, it's about living better. It's about strength in your body, sharpness in your mind, and yes, intimacy that still makes you feel like the world disappears when you're with her. And sometimes, the simplest things, a handful of the right fruits, can become powerful allies in that journey. Not because they're magic, but because they work in harmony with the body you've earned through a lifetime. So today, I want to show you how 4 humble fruits can help you restore your strength, deepen your energy, and keep passion alive long after the world says you should slow down. There's a quiet dignity in a man who knows himself, who has walked enough miles to no longer be seduced by every passing trend, yet still carries the hunger to keep learning, keep improving. I've seen men in their 60s and 70s who are more alive than those half their age, and it's never because they've avoided aging. It's because they've chosen to meet it with intention. And intention, at this stage of life, is often about removing what weighs you down and adding what truly fuels you. That fuel doesn't always come in the form of a supplement bottle or an exotic powder with a label you can barely pronounce. Sometimes, it's as simple as a piece of fruit, something your grandmother might have eaten without knowing the science, but intuitively understanding its power. Let's start with one that has been called nature's own heartbeat stabilizer: pomegranate. The first time I saw my father cut open a pomegranate, I remember the way he did it, slowly, as if he were unlocking something sacred. The red jewels glistened in the afternoon light, and he told me, "This is for the blood, for the heart." At the time, I thought it was just one of those old world beliefs passed down without question. Years later, science would confirm what he already knew. Pomegranates are rich in antioxidants that protect blood vessels, improve circulation, and even support testosterone production. For a man over 60, circulation is not just about avoiding heart problems. It's about carrying energy to every cell in your body, including the parts of you that make intimacy possible. When your blood flows well, your mind is clearer, your muscles recover faster, and yes, your passion has the fuel it needs to burn brightly. But here's where the Stoic part comes in. In Stoic philosophy, we learn to focus only on what is within our control. You cannot stop time, but you can choose what you put in your body each day. Eating a handful of pomegranate seeds is not a grand, dramatic act. It's a small, steady discipline. And those small disciplines over time shape the man you become. Imagine this: you wake up, slice open a pomegranate, and take 10 minutes to eat it slowly. No phone, no television, just the taste, the texture, the moment. You are feeding your body, yes, but you are also training your mind to be present, to savor, to connect. That same presence you bring to your food is the presence your partner will feel in your touch, your words, your gaze. Now, from the richness of the pomegranate's red, we move to the deep, royal purple of blueberries. Small, unassuming, yet powerful in ways we are only beginning to understand. They are what I call a memory fruit. Packed with compounds that protect brain cells and improve communication between them, blueberries are a quiet safeguard against the forgetfulness and mental fog that can creep in with age. And why does that matter for vitality? Because intimacy is not only physical, it is deeply intellectual and emotional. Your ability to remember the way she laughs, the small details she told you last week, the stories you've shared over decades, this is what makes her feel seen, cherished, chosen again and again. A sharp mind keeps love alive. The Stoics teach that we must prepare our minds for life's challenges as diligently as we prepare our bodies. Blueberries, in their simplicity, are one of those daily preparations. When you choose to nourish your mind, you are also choosing to protect your relationships, because when you can be fully present in your conversations, when you recall the threads of your shared history, you keep weaving the fabric of connection. But let's also talk about the body. Blueberries fight inflammation, the silent thief of energy. Inflammation is like a slow leak in your vitality. It robs you of strength without announcing itself. You may notice it as stiffness in your joints, slower recovery after a walk, or the way your energy dips halfway through the day. By reducing that internal fire, blueberries keep you moving with ease, so that you can still take her hand and walk along the beach without wincing at every step. I think about a man I met years ago in his early 70s. Tall, silver-haired, with a calm confidence. He told me his secret was simple every morning: a bowl of blueberries and a long walk. It's not just about living longer, he said. It's about being able to carry the groceries for my wife, dance at my granddaughter's wedding, and still feel like myself in the mirror. That's vitality, not a number on a blood test, but the freedom to live on your own terms. So here, in just 2 fruits, pomegranates and blueberries, we see something powerful. One feeds the heart and circulation, the other feeds the mind and reduces inflammation. Together, They create a man who is present in both body and spirit, capable of strength and tenderness, discipline and joy. And maybe that's what aging well really is. Not the desperate attempt to cling to youth, but the graceful acceptance that you are no longer 20 and that this is a gift. You no longer have to prove yourself in the same ways. You no longer need to chase every passing thrill. You can choose with clarity the few things that matter most and give them your full attention. Every bite you take, every small choice is a vote for the man you will be tomorrow. And while the world may try to sell you quick fixes, the truth is often quieter, simpler, more grounded. It's in the seeds of a pomegranate, the skin of a blueberry, the way you stand when you know you have taken care of yourself from the inside out. And when you take care of yourself, something changes in the way you meet others. Your partner feels it in the strength of your embrace, in the steadiness of your energy, in the fact that you still look at her with the curiosity of a man who is not done living. Because you are not done, not by a long shot. There's a certain pride in knowing that your body still answers when you call it, that you can rise from a chair without leaning on the armrest, that you can walk into a room and carry yourself with quiet strength. But here's the truth few men are willing to admit. Strength is not only in the muscles. It is in the energy that fills you when you wake, the steadiness of your mood, the resilience you bring to the days when life tests you, an energy that brings me to the third fruit in our journey, a fruit that wears the color of fire and the taste of sunlight. Papaya. If pomegranates feed the heart and blueberries feed the mind, papaya is a gift to the gut. And make no mistake, the gut is where vitality begins. It's the silent command center of your well-being, influencing everything from how well you absorb nutrients to how balanced your hormones remain. When digestion slows with age, it doesn't just make you feel heavy after a meal. It quietly steals your energy. Your body spends so much effort breaking down what you eat that there's little left for movement, for thought, for intimacy. Papaya, with its natural enzymes, is like oil for the engine. It helps your body work with less strain, so the energy you save can be spent on the things that make life rich. The Stoics would remind us that nothing great is built on a shaky foundation. If your gut is sluggish, your mood, your focus, even your desire will feel it. Papaya steadies that foundation, and it does it gently, without fanfare, just as a wise man speaks softly but leaves a lasting mark. I think about a conversation I had with an older couple in Greece. He was 72, she was 70. They still walked hand in hand through the market, still laughed like conspirators. When I asked him his secret, he smiled and pointed to the papayas in his basket. She still likes the way I dance, he said. And for that, I need to feel light. Lightness. This is the often forgotten partner of strength. The kind of lightness that lets you move freely, that keeps you from carrying the weight of discomfort in your belly or stiffness in your joints. It's not about losing weight. It's about losing the things that slow you down. Papaya gives you that freedom. From the golden orange of papaya, we move to the emerald green and soft cream of avocado, the fourth fruit. Though it behaves like a fat in its richness, in truth it is a fruit disguised as something more substantial, and that is exactly its gift. Avocado is fuel for the hormones that make a man feel alive. Testosterone is not just about intimacy, it's about muscle repair, bone density, and even the fire in your ambition. As the years pass, testosterone naturally declines, but the right fats like those in avocado help your body keep producing what it needs to remain strong, steady, and engaged with life. Here's what's fascinating. Intimacy is not only sparked by physical desire, but by confidence. And confidence comes in part from feeling good in your own skin. When your hormones are supported, you feel more like yourself, quicker to laugh, quicker to move, quicker to reach for her hand. The Stoics remind us that control is never absolute. You cannot command your body to stay 20 forever, but you can support it so that it serves you well in every decade. Avocado is one of those quiet supports. It nourishes your heart, keeps your joints supple, and gives your brain the fats it needs to think clearly. It is fuel for movement and for memory, for strength and for tenderness. I once knew a man in his late 60s who swore by his avocado ritual. Every morning he would slice one in half, sprinkle it with sea salt, and eat it with a spoon while standing by the kitchen window. He called it his green sunrise. He told me it wasn't just the health benefits. It was the reminder that the simplest rituals done with care can make you feel wealthy in ways money can't buy. There is something deeply masculine about this kind of daily discipline. Not the loud, showy masculinity of youth, but the quiet-rooted kind that says, I take care of what's mine, your body, your relationships, your vitality, they are yours to protect. And when you protect them, they give back tenfold. Pomegranates, blueberries, papaya, avocado. Do you see the pattern? Each is humble. Each is accessible, yet each carries within it a power that speaks to a different part of you. Heart, mind, gut, hormones. Together they create a man who is not only strong, but whole. But here's the deeper truth. This is not really about fruit. This is about self-respect. When you choose foods that keep you alive in every sense of the word, you are telling yourself and the people who love you that you matter, that you intend to keep showing up, that you will not fade quietly into the background of your own life. And that choice is intimacy. Not just with a partner, but with yourself. I have seen men revive not only their energy, but their marriages simply by taking better care of their health. Because when you have the strength to walk into a room with presence, the clarity to hold a meaningful conversation, the stamina to enjoy an evening without needing to sit down after 10 minutes, you bring life back into the relationship. And the beautiful part, she notices the way you stand taller, the way your eyes stay bright, the way you don't seem as tired at the end of the day. She feels it in the subtle changes, in your touch, in your attention, in the way you look at her like she is still the woman who made your heart race decades ago. Vitality is attractive, not because of vanity, but because it signals life. It says, I am still here. I am still in this with you. And perhaps that is the ultimate Stoic lesson about aging. It is not about fighting the years, but about meeting them with the kind of strength, grace, and intimacy that makes every one of them worth living. It's one thing to know what's good for you. It's another to make it part of your life in a way that feels natural, even pleasurable. Too many men think of health as a punishment, something you endure because you have to. But I believe that after 60, health should feel like a gift you give yourself every day, not a sentence you serve. The truth is, if something feels like a chore, you'll abandon it the moment life gets busy. But if it feels like a ritual, something you look forward to, it becomes effortless. And that's where these 4 fruits come in. Think of your mornings not as something to get through, but as a time to set the tone for the day. Maybe you start with the quiet discipline of cutting open a pomegranate, hearing the seeds fall into a bowl like small rubies. You don't rush it. You don't eat it while checking your phone. You let the act itself remind you that this is your time, your moment to choose how you will show up today. Then perhaps you follow it with a small handful of blueberries. Not a snack thrown into your mouth while pacing the kitchen, but a deliberate act. You taste their sweetness, you imagine them feeding your mind, clearing the fog, sharpening your focus for the conversations and decisions ahead. This is the beauty of ritual. It connects the physical with the mental. And when you approach food in this way, it also connects you to the emotional. You begin to notice how your energy changes, how your mood steadies, how your body feels lighter. That lightness doesn't just make it easier to climb the stairs. It makes it easier to be present in your relationships, to listen more patiently, to respond more warmly. Midday, maybe it's a slice of papaya. You feel it working gently, taking strain off your digestion, giving your body the quiet support it needs. And here's where the Stoic approach transforms this small act into something more. The Stoics teach us to be deliberate in all things, to understand the why behind what we do. You are not eating papaya because it's trendy or exotic. You are eating it because it allows you to move through your day with greater ease. Because you have things you want to do, people you want to love, places you still want to see, and you will not let sluggishness steal those from you. And somewhere in the late afternoon, when the energy of the day begins to dip, you bring in the avocado, smooth, rich grounding. You might mash it on a slice of whole grain bread or simply eat it from the skin with a sprinkle of salt. Either way, you know what it's doing, feeding your hormones, protecting your heart, giving you the steady fuel to end your day as strong as you began it. When you string these moments together, morning pomegranate and blueberries, midday papaya, afternoon avocado, you are no longer just eating healthy. You are engaging in a set of daily acts that reinforce who you want to be. Acts that tell your body, I am here for you. Acts that tell your partner, I am still here for us. And here's something men rarely talk about, but should, how these choices affect intimacy in ways that go beyond the obvious. When you feel lighter in your body, sharper in your mind, and steady in your mood, you naturally become more attractive. Not because your wrinkles disappear or your hairline returns, but because your presence changes. You radiate energy instead of fatigue. You meet her eyes with curiosity instead of distraction. You touch with intention instead of going through the motions. I once worked with a couple who had been married for over 40 years. They loved each other deeply, but intimacy had faded, not just physically, but in the small ways. They no longer lingered over coffee together, no longer held hands while walking. When I asked the husband how he felt, he said, tired, all the time. We worked on small changes. He began eating more whole foods, including these 4 fruits, not as a diet, but as a daily practice. Within months, his energy returned, his posture improved, and he began initiating small acts of connection again. His wife told me, it's like he's looking at me the way he used to. That is the quiet magic of vitality. It doesn't just keep you alive, it keeps love alive. The Stoics would say that the quality of your days determines the quality of your life, and the quality of your days is built from the smallest of choices. These fruits, as simple as they seem, are part of that architecture. They are the bricks you lay every day toward a future where you are still strong enough to carry her suitcase up the stairs, still alert enough to enjoy a long conversation over dinner, still vibrant enough to make her blush when you compliment her in public. But here's where the philosophy deepens. You do this not out of fear of aging, but out of respect for it. You accept that time will leave its marks. You welcome those marks as proof you've lived. but you also refuse to let time decide how fully you will live the years you have left. That is the essence of a Stoic guide to aging, not resignation, but responsibility. Responsibility to yourself, to the people who love you, to the relationships that define your life. And when you take that responsibility seriously, you realize that health is not separate from love, from connection, from intimacy. It is the soil in which those things grow. And perhaps that is why I see these 4 fruits not as part of a diet, but as part of a love story between you and your own body, between you and the life you still want to live, between you and the woman who still wants to see you at your best, even after decades together. Because when you care for yourself, you are telling her and the world that you are not finished, that your story is still being written. The real test of a man's vitality is not in how strong he feels on a good day, but in how he carries himself when life tilts against him. Anyone can eat well, exercise, and be charming when everything is smooth. The question is, what happens when stress builds, when the news is bad, when your body aches, or when desire feels far away? Aging will hand you those days. That's not a threat. It's simply the truth. You may wake up one morning with less energy than you had the day before. You may notice your knees are stiff, or your sleep is restless, or intimacy feels more like a memory than a living thing. This is where most men begin to retreat. They cut back on effort, telling themselves it's just part of getting older. They allow a slow resignation to creep in. But a Stoic man, and a man who still wants to live fully after 60, sees these moments differently. He sees them as the exact times when discipline matters most. Because these fruits, pomegranate, blueberries, papaya, avocado, are not just for the good days. They are anchors for the storms. They are reminders that no matter what life throws at you, you can still take a deliberate action that moves you towards strength instead of away from it. You wake up tired. Fine. You still cut open that pomegranate. You don't have to feel like doing it. Discipline isn't about feelings. It's about values. You eat the blueberries not because you're hungry, but because you promised yourself you'd keep your mind sharp. You slice that papaya not because you want to stand in the kitchen, but because you know your digestion will thank you later. You scoop out that avocado because you're feeding your hormones for the days ahead, not just today. Over time, these acts become a declaration: I will not surrender my body, my mind, or my presence without a fight. And presence, that's the quiet key to intimacy in later life. If there's one thing I've seen over decades of observing relationships, it's that presence matters more than performance. Your partner doesn't need you to be 25 again. She doesn't need you to have the same hairline or the same stamina. She needs you to show up, to listen without drifting, to touch without rushing, to be there without being distracted by fatigue or irritability. Food, movement, mindset, they are all ways of keeping that presence alive. When your body is nourished, your mind clear, and your energy steady, you have more to give. Not just in the bedroom, but in the kitchen when you cook together, in the living room when you talk late into the night, in the small spaces between moments when love either grows or fades. I remember sitting with an older couple in Lisbon. They'd been together 50 years. When I asked the wife what kept their intimacy alive, she smiled and said, "He still notices me." Think about that. Not, "Still buys me gifts," or "Still looks like he did in his youth." Simply notices me. To notice someone, you need energy, you need attention. You need a mind that isn't lost in fatigue or dulled by neglect. And that is why caring for your health, through the simplest of daily habits, is not selfish. It's the foundation of being able to notice and respond to the person you love. The Stoics would remind us that we can't control how many years we get, but we can control how awake we are for the years we have. You can let time pass like a slow blur, or you can sharpen each day until it feels fully yours. This sharpening doesn't happen in grand, once-in-a-lifetime gestures. It happens in small, repetitive acts, the kind most people overlook because they seem too ordinary to matter. But ordinary things done consistently create extraordinary results. The man who eats to fuel his mind, heart, hormones, and digestion each day will over time stand taller, think clearer, love deeper than the man who waits for a crisis before making changes. And here's where intimacy weaves back in. Because passion is not just a spark you feel in the moment. It's the sum of all the ways you've cared for yourself and your relationship over time. When you're physically strong enough to plan a trip, emotionally present enough to share your thoughts, and hormonally balanced enough to still feel desire, passion has fertile ground to grow, no matter your age. The irony is that most people look for complicated solutions to intimacy fading, when in truth, the answer often lies in the basics. If your energy is low, if your body feels heavy, if your mind is foggy, intimacy will feel like an effort. But when you're light, clear, and fueled, connection flows more naturally. And so, these fruits are not a diet. They are part of an unspoken vow that you will not let neglect rob you of the chance to live and love fully, even in the decades when society tells you to slow down. They are part of a deeper philosophy. That aging is not a slow retreat, but a slow deepening, a deepening into yourself, your relationships, your presence in the world. And perhaps that's the real Stoic truth, that the measure of a man after 60 is not how much he has slowed down, but how deeply he has learned to show up. There is a moment in every man's life when he realizes that the number of years behind him is greater than the number ahead. For some, that realization is a quiet acceptance. For others, it is a jolt, a sudden awareness that time is moving faster than they thought. But for the rare man, it is a call not to race against time, but to walk alongside it with purpose, strength, and dignity. And here's the thing, you are that man, or you wouldn't be here listening to these words. You wouldn't be thinking about how to feed your body, your mind, and your relationships if you weren't already the kind of man who refuses to fade quietly into the background. We've talked about 4 simple fruits: pomegranate for the heart, blueberries for the mind, papaya for the gut, avocado for the hormones. They are humble things, easily found in a market, perhaps even in your own kitchen, but they carry within them something greater than nutrients. They carry a practice. Because what you choose to eat is not just a physical act, it is a daily conversation with yourself. Every seed, every berry, every slice says, I am still in this. Every choice to nourish instead of neglect is a choice to keep showing up for your health, for your passions, for the people who still want to see you at your best. The Stoics knew that life is short, but they also knew it could be deep. They taught that our control lies not in the length of our years, but in the quality of our days. And the quality of your days depends on how present you are in them. Presence requires inner care. Care requires the discipline to make small, wise choices again and again, even when no one is watching. And here's where intimacy comes in. Intimacy is not just something that happens between 2 people in a moment of passion. It is built in the way you carry yourself through the day. It is in the way you listen when she speaks, the way you still notice the curve of her smile, the way you reach for her hand without thinking. Those moments are born from the vitality you've chosen to protect. I've seen men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s who still move through the world with a magnetic presence, not because they're trying to prove anything, but because they are comfortable in their own skin. They have taken care of themselves long enough that their bodies still serve them, their minds still engage, and their hearts still open. That is what makes them attractive. That is what keeps their relationships alive. And maybe that is the real gift of these 4 fruits. Not that they will turn back the clock. They won't. But they will make the clock irrelevant. They will make your years fuller, your energy steadier, your presence sharper. They will keep you in the game, not watching from the sidelines. So here's my challenge to you tomorrow. When you wake up, begin. Begin with one of them. Pomegranate, blueberries, papaya, avocado. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't wait for the perfect time to start. The perfect time never comes. What comes is now. And as you eat, remember this. You are not just feeding your body. You are feeding the strength to climb the stairs without hesitation. You are feeding the clarity to remember the details that make her feel seen. You are feeding the lightness to move without wincing. You are feeding the desire to touch her with the same curiosity you had decades ago. This is not about diet. This is about legacy. The legacy of being the kind of man who stayed alive in every way that mattered. The kind of man who didn't give in to the slow fade, who didn't stop showing up for his own life. The kind of man who still made her laugh, still made her blush, still made her feel chosen. One day, many years from now, someone will look at you, your partner, your children, maybe even your grandchildren, and they will see a man who aged with strength, with presence, with love. They will see a man who did not waste the time he was given. And when they ask you your secret, you can smile, perhaps cut open a pomegranate and say it's simple. I took care of what was mine. Because in the end, vitality is not a number. It's a feeling you wake up with, a feeling you carry in your walk, a feeling you share when you hold her close. It's the quiet fire inside you that says, I am still here. I am still me. I am still alive. And that is worth protecting.